This episode is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, located in Melbourne, Florida. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. As well as our friends at Docking Bay 94, located in Boca Raton, Florida. Check us out on comicsandgames.com. And Ian's Display Accessories, the best figure stands for your iconic Kenner Star Wars and Hasbro G.I. Joe, shipping nationwide. Welcome to another exciting episode of Codename New to Vero 2. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shibu Ryu. Today we're going to look at issue number 282. Now recall we just got introduced to a new character named Sherlock in last issue. The Joes waste no time putting her out on the field. I also want you to recall our 10-issue story arc titled Snake Hunt, where we saw our Joes disobey the high brass orders to rescue Sean Collins, aka SnakeEyes, while he was being held in Springfield. Again, to quickly recap, the Joes all took unpaid time off, gathered recreational vehicles to help out a teammate. Now time was running out as Cobra Commander and Mindbender were planning on using the Brainwave scanner on Sean, thus uncovering that the OG SnakeEyes has since passed and unleashing Sean against his own teammates. Of course, despite doing all the paperwork to cover their asses, G.I. Joe has been called in to appear before the Senate to explain their actions and why they disobeyed the DOD. Sherlock is actually undercover policing outside the Capitol building because we all know Cobra is up to something. As always, we have living legend Larry Hama at the helm of this ship and working with Andrew Lee Griffin, who I have to admit is doing a satisfactory job in the art department. And as we do with every comic recap, we look at the cover variants. I end up getting cover A and B, but again, John Royal and Jagdish Kumar's RI cover is the one to get. Now, if you guys have been following me, I've become good friends with John Royal and Jagdish Kumar, but it's really difficult to get the RI covers. I don't know why, but there's always an issue with them. So this is something that I need to talk to them about, or maybe talk to John. He might send me issues so I don't have to go through this and hope that I get the RI cover. Because whenever he does a cover, it is 5-star phenomenal, and it is the cover to get. I just love his artwork, and I think, a lot of people, J. Scott Campbell, was one artist that the Marvel people, but I'm telling you right now, John Royal is a legitimately good artist, and I love how he draws female characters especially, and then action sequences. And look at this. This is an exclusive that he did for, I think, Black Flag Comics, and again, just these covers are like $45. We begin this issue in front of the Capitol building and joining a tour in progress. One of the guards, and yes, they are heroes, real-world heroes in my opinion, for standing up against Confederate traitors that stormed the Capitol building. He tells the tour that the chamber is unavailable due to a classified hearing that's going on, and we notice this suspicious guy in blonde hair walking amongst the tour group. Inside, we see the Senate committee in charge of overseeing G.I. Joe operations before our Joes. They announced the accusations against the G.I. Joe team, that this invasion into a civilian city was not authorized by the DOD or even the President of the United States. Now we have Scarlet, SnakeEyes / Sean, Hawk, and we have Stalker and Helix serving as guards in case Cobra decides to show up. We also get introduced to a new character who I believe is named Bottom Line, the G.I. Joe lawyer. After the chairwoman highlights all the accusations against the G.I. Joe team, she simply asks why the G.I. Joe team deliberately do this action. And to which Hawk stands up and replies, quoting the Marine Corps, "No Joe is left behind." We also see two different teams with vested interest in the outcome of this hearing. We have Duke and Mainframe with the G.I. Joe team, and Cobra Commander and Mindbender watching the proceedings. Now, how is Cobra watching this? Good question. I'm glad you asked, as we discovered that Senator Torres was kidnapped and subjected to the Brainwave scanner a few years back. She only has to hear the trigger word to awaken her, brainwashing program. The Joes also spot the blonde-haired guy amongst the tour and identify him as a Fred series CG. Sherlock has been notified, and her eyes are on this character who is trying to enter the chamber floor, citing that he has evidence. Now, I'm sure you've already gathered that this isn't a typical G.I. Joe issue, but it is a much needed and compelling issue in that it's highlighting an age-old difference between boots on the ground and politicians. And I, for one, appreciate it because I had to submit so many things to the government for overview. So especially, I have a smile on my face on how G.I. Joe rebuts or retorts these acquisitions. And back inside, Hawk continues with this opening statement, how Cobra infiltrated the G.I. Joe base in Fort Wadsworth, caused extensive damage to government property, abducted SnakeEyes, and took him back to Springfield as a captive, that they in fact submitted the needed paperwork but were denied with a lack of funding as an excuse. Yeah, that looks really good in Arlington, right? Died because of lack of funding. That's ridiculous. Again, I recommend to actually reading this issue and the banner that's going on between the committee and G.I. Joe, and how amazing and thorough G.I. Joe is in retorting and always being one step ahead of the committee. Here's the interesting thing. One of the senators demands that SnakeEyes stand up and give a testimony, and of course he can't talk, or Sean can't talk either. And then they realize that he's wearing a mask, and they order him to take off his mask, and Scarlet and all them is like, you don't want to do that. And he shows, of course Sean complies and shows his face, and you could see them all grimace about the sight of his face. Back outside, the CG is still trying to gain access into the chamber floor, and he instructs the guard to hand a note to Stalker saying that he is Wade Collins. Yes, Sean's dad and the member of the famous SnakeEyes, Stormy, and Stalker LRC team. Now, Sherlock is reporting this and is this guy for real? Is he really Wade Collins? And Duke's like, no, why would Wade do that? He helped us invade Springfield to free his boy. We learned something really terrifying, is that same senator that asked to see SnakeEyes' face, or Sean's face, is actually on Cobra's payroll, as Cobra has been giving him campaign contributions. Scarlet stands up and says that, SnakeEyes could have been transformed into a zombie killer that would have been a big threat to the entire nation had they been successful. And he dismisses it as all rubbish. Oh, that doesn't justify you going into a city to stop a potential zombie killer. I mean, this is ridiculous. And then he uses video evidence, and G.I. Joe is like, how did he get this video evidence, But luckily, G.I. Joe had their own evidence showing that, hey, they were being surrounded by armed guards and his tanks, and they're in a small bus just defending their position and holding off this being surrounded by Cobra. So they're on the short end of the stick trying to defend themselves. By now, Stalker has been handed the note announcing that Wade is outside, and he's coming out to greet Wade, but just then, while G.I. Joe is running its facial scans and all their diagnostic, they identify that it is not a match. That is not Wade. And Duke is telling Sherlock, stop this man from going in. And just as she's about to, another guy comes out and grabs her arm and puts a knife to her stomach, saying that you're not going to do that. So we have two Cobra operatives, and Sherlock, using her new prosthetic arm, is able to subdue this guy. But he kind of wiggles out, and meanwhile, the other CG is trying to say the trigger word to Senator Torres, I guess to assassinate somebody. I have no idea. But we have a skirmish going on, and the other Cobra operative, the one in the gray uniform, jumps on and snaps the senator's neck. So he offs the senator that was on Cobra's payroll, and just then he launches a grenade at Scarlet, kind of reminiscent of how the original SnakeEyes died back in issue 212 when Serpentor tried to do the same thing. And you could see Scarlet has a second of a flashback, but they discover that grenade is actually plastic and a dummy, and that just gives them enough time to escape. While the CG is being taken into custody, Senator Torres insists that the trial or hearing is still ongoing, to which G.I. Joe retorts saying that, what more freaking evidence do you need? This is what we're going up against. And you see Cobra Commander is all pissed off. But the good thing is that they still have Senator Torres under their mind control and not aware of it yet. But they also were able to commandeer that pin that the other senator had that was transmitting all the information or videos to Cobra Base. So that was a win, and plus he got away. So Duke is saying, hey, this ain't over yet. There's still a lot more to go with this. And that's what's going to be interesting. And I like how they, even though this is not a traditional issue, it was still compelling. And I thought it was a very much needed issue because you get to see the complete picture of what goes on, what the military has to go up against. And it's not always bullets and guns. Sometimes it's just bullshit. I think this issue really does a good job highlighting that. Well, anyway, this is GIJoe signing off.